Please be seated. Happy International Women's Day. It corresponds with today's gospel because Jesus speaks to this woman for quite a lengthy time. And it's believed that this woman is the first missionary that Jesus actually gives permission to go and say whatever she has heard from the conversation that they have. So it's a special reading, and we realize that this is one of the women in the Bible that are not named. So women have a special place in Jesus' ministry, and we thank God for that. From the reading today, I have been reminded of something that used to happen when I was a little boy, or when I was growing up in the village back home. We used to go and fetch water, but we normally fetched water in the morning because you had to go very early, first of all, fetch water that's going to be used for cooking and all the household, chores for the day. But also you have to take a bath before you go to school. So you had to wake up very early in the morning, and that's when it was our rush hour to go and get water. And we were not allowed to go to the well at noon because it was very hot. And there was also this story that was being told that's when the spirits come to drink water. I don't know what kind of spirits. And you're not supposed to meet them there because if you look them in the eye, you lose your way back home. So we were not allowed to go there. But as we grew older, that story changed from meeting spirits to meeting dangerous animals like snakes and things like that, because it's believed that around that time, snakes and other animals come out to come and refresh themselves, or that's when they're moving around, looking either for food or a shade. So the story changed to that. But it was all in the name of protecting us from danger. But in the evenings, we could go there. And when we went in the evening, we met our friends. It's after school, we talked about different things like a new movie that just came out that we've heard about, and whose TV we are going to watch, and things like that. But also, girls used to gossip about different stories because they were normally different from the boys' stories. So the evenings were full of life. They were full of conversations. They were full of groups of people seated around and waiting for their turn to fetch water from the well. So to avoid all this chaos, you had to go in the evening. To avoid all this chaos, and you were brave enough, you had to go at noon to get water because there was nobody there, and you could just go in. It's a quick one. You put your jerry can, get water, and then head back home. And there are also no gossipers to waste your time and make the line long. Now, this woman in the gospel this morning appears to have the same intention, to avoid these crowds, gossiping crowds, because her life story is indeed quite a story, like we've heard. A story that is not so different from each of our stories. John shares with us a little bit of what was going on in her life. She's alone at noon. When the sun is really hot, it's when she decides to go to the well to fetch water. And like I've shared, this is not a very nice time for someone to go out. Why? Why does this woman go at this time? Why does she choose noon? She chooses noon because isolation is her survival strategy. She's tired of people whispering and making those faces. When your story is messy, when you've had 5 husbands, and the current situation is also complicated, the shed at the well isn't worth the heat of people's judgment. I don't know how people here gossip, but back home, people like using their mouth to point at you. They don't use their fingers when you're passing or when they're saying something about you. They use their mouth like that. That's the one, you know? Look at his shoes, look at this, look at that. That's the person I was talking about. Here, your gestures might be a little bit different, but I've seen some people shake their heads, others can point at you, or just turning their eyes towards you. So many times you feel it, that you know what, I think all these people are looking at me and they're judging me, or they're saying something about me. Is it my shoes? Is it my shirt? Is it my dress? Did I sit in something? You know? So it makes you really uncomfortable. So normally you isolate yourself or you find a safer space so that you can sit in peace. Many of us today search for validation amongst our peers, amongst our communities, because we are faced with a single story problem. This single story is normally used to judge us, to isolate us, to alienate us. They describe who we are by the way we look, by the way we sound, by the way we dress, and by what is going on in our lives. So our worlds are divided by politics, by race, by religious denomination. Many of us feel disqualified from spiritual life because of our past or because we don't fit the standard image of the societies that we live in, or of a religious person because we claim we are religious people. So her story proves that God's love goes beyond all that. All those identities, all those labels that are slapped onto us by our fellow human beings. The love of God goes beyond all that. This is a woman who has had 5 husbands. And actually the 6th one, we don't even know if it's, you know. And she's being judged by all these people, including those 5 husbands that they've talked about. We often think that if God really knew the details of our noon, our failures, our addictions, our secret loneliness, that he would turn away. And in so doing, many of us stay hidden. We go to the well at noon when there is nobody because we don't want to be judged. Okay, you may judge me, but you just condemn me, and the love of God is not condemnation. So God does not trash our past at all. Whatever has happened in our lives, he does not trash it. This is a woman who is probably stressed, and that's why she's going to fetch water at noon. Not in the morning with other women, you know, to talk about family life, to talk about motherhood, and other stories, like stories that are being told, you know, in the knitting clubs, the baking clubs, and all those other places where you feel at home. She goes at a time when there is no one to see her and make those faces or bad comments. She was probably cast out. I don't know if you can relate to this, you know? Like people in your community, no one wants to talk to you. Even in church, you sit on the side somewhere because you don't want people to look at your clothes, maybe. There are people who go to church to show off their new shoes or new shirt that they bought. It's not here at All Saints, I've not seen it, but it could be happening somewhere else. So that's who Jesus needed to go and meet. He's very specific. He said, I need to go through Samaria. Now, to give you a little bit background of this place where Jesus meets this woman, Jews and Samaritans never used to mix because of their differences in so many things. You know, there were intermarriages that had occurred and that produced the Samaritans. So they avoided them. They used to go around the land of Samaria to go to Galilee and Judea. But this time round, Jesus breaks all these barriers and says, you know what? I need to go through here. And he says it intentionally so that he could meet anybody who was thirsting to hear the word. So that's who Jesus really needed to go and meet. He intentionally travels through Samaria, a route that so many Jews avoided. Now I want to ask you, how bad is your case compared to this woman's case? Or compared to the life around you? How bad is your case? You might be having self-doubt in yourself. You might be unfaithful to your partner or to your friends or at your workplace. You might be feeling unrighteous. But whatever your case is, Jesus really wants to meet you. And we don't have to be perfect, because many times we thrive to be perfect, but there is no one who is perfect in this world. And that imperfection is the ultimate requirement that Jesus needs, and that is where he's glorified. So he told his disciples intentionally to go and look for food as he sat by the well. Maybe he didn't want to shame this woman. So he sends them away and says, you know what, go look for food and I'll wait for you here, because he knows what's coming. And many times we want all that we want. And I've seen this. I've been working with a outdoor church in Cambridge, where we do outreach ministry to unhoused individuals in Cambridge. And I have discovered one thing, that some of these individuals are not even hungry for physical food, but they just want somebody to listen to their story. This woman was very quiet for maybe a very long time. Society is judging her. She has no one to talk to. And here is an opportunity. Someone who is there to help you unpack whatever is that you're holding on your heart. So Jesus intentionally sends away these disciples to go and look for food as he waits for this woman to come in. So he didn't just stumble upon this well. The scripture says that he needed to go through here, and he sat down, waiting for that one person who was trying to be invisible. We try to be invisible to protect ourselves from what is going on around us. So when Jesus says to this woman that, hey, go and call your husband, it feels like a trap. But her reaction is something that really gets me. She doesn't run away. Many of us do that. If somebody starts saying things that are happening in your life, it scares you. And you're like, oh, this person is now going to start judging me. But the approach that Jesus uses is just helping this woman to unpack whatever she's holding on her heart. So when he tells her to go and bring her husband, it feels like a trap at first, but she gives a half-truth. I have no husband. But we know she's with someone who is not even her husband. So she says, I have no husband. And Jesus is like, okay, I knew that. because you've had 5 and the one you have is not yours. So our ability to receive what we are asking for many times depends on our willingness to give it first. This woman says that, she's very honest. I don't have a husband because I've had 5. And Jesus, elaborates everything. Yes, you've had this, you've been through this and that. Now, this woman is willing to be honest, so she receives this revelation from the master. And he tells her that I'm actually the Messiah. I now call upon you, brothers, to check your lives in the areas that you are not receiving. Because if you don't give in those areas, maybe that's why you're not receiving. If you're not honest, you're not going to get honesty from other people. If you are not helping the poor, maybe that's not why you're not being increased as well. So Jesus mirrors her life back to her. And he says, you are right. You have 5. And the one that you're staying with right now is not yours. He did not tell her the story of shame, like I've told you. He told her the story to let her know that she didn't have to explain herself. She doesn't have to do that anymore. The exhaustion of keeping up a front was over. The prophet was the leaking bucket at this moment. The leaking bucket of her life, and didn't walk away. Now, why do I bring in the analogy of the leaking bucket? We all have this bucket that we are hiding behind to go to the well, to hide our true identity, to protect ourselves. If you realize when you read further in this scripture, the woman didn't even take the water. After all this happened, she left the bucket there. She left the jar at the well. I'm using bucket because we use buckets back home, I'm sorry. But she left the jar there. After talking to Jesus and listening to her and helping her unpack her heart, she's like, you know what? I have to tell other people. I have to go and be a witness and tell all the rest that have been judging me that I found someone who knows everything about me. She's perplexed. Because usually when people know our business, they use it as a weapon against us. But Jesus uses his knowledge as a bridge for this woman. There's a theologian called Paul Jones who wrote a book about the theological worlds, understanding the alternative rhythms of Christian belief. And in chapter 4, he writes about 5 theological worlds that explain why humans behave the way they do in our communities. Human beings, and I quote, that there is a keen sensitivity in our world to know socialization can scar and marginalize us. So we as individuals, we tend to be lost in these structures or any structure in our communities. We tend to be lost, and this results into self-alienation. This world the inhabitants of this world, and that's most of us, we tend to have feelings for deep sharing, for a lyric of love and living. In other words, dualism is opposed. For example, on integrating right and left brain thinking and regarding mind and body as a whole. Now, I'm trying to bring in this because our worlds, we try to alienate ourselves because of what is happening around us. But if we help each other to live together, to live in harmony by not judging, it teaches us that The theological world teaches us that we are empty until we find a purpose that fits our soul. If we help our colleagues around us, our families, our friends, to realize that they have a purpose in this world and we don't judge them, this is going to help us. It's going to help us justify our thirst. It's going to help us enjoy the living water which is within us, that is love, that is sharing, that is caring about our neighbors. So we are going to live in harmony. This woman was looking for fulfillment in relationships. Our relationships in community. We look for fulfillment. We want to impress everyone. And she was looking for that fulfillment. Even the 5 men that she was with, no one was willing to stay with her. Maybe she was looking for something. That's why she kept moving from one partner to the other, looking for that fulfillment in all these relationships. But Jesus offered her fulfillment in identity. He saw her at her worst, at her noon, where she's hiding to be a useful person in the community. And he offered her his best, living water. This living water flows within her. It prompts her to go back to the community and tell everybody that I have met someone in my life that knows everything about me. And this revelation that she does was initially taken as truth by the people that she talks to. Everybody believed her, and they did not run away, they did not shy away, but they joined her to come back to the well and meet Jesus. They met Jesus there, and they told him, look, she told us we believed, but now, after you have even talked to us, we believe even more. We don't believe because she just told us, but we believe because you have spoken to us. So she shouts to them and says, come and see a man who told me everything that I've ever done. Her scandal became her sermon. Because Jesus knew her story, and Jesus knows every one of our stories, and still wanted her water, she realized she didn't have to hide anymore. We don't have to hide anymore. These people ran towards Jesus. They listened to him more and even asked him to stay for 2 more days. The guy who was tired, who was hungry, going on his way back home, he had to stay for another 2 days. So Jesus broke all these barriers. He broke the gender barrier because rabbis typically didn't sit to talk to women in public. He broke the ethnic barrier. Jews and Samaritans didn't share drinking vessels. And then lastly, he broke the moral barrier. The woman didn't need to come to the well at noon anymore to avoid all those judgmental glares. Now, brothers and sisters, God sees our noon times, and he knows everything that we have ever done. And he isn't sitting at the well to condemn us. He's only sitting there to tell us that the search for fulfillment is over. We are in the Lent season, a season of reflection, a season of love, not just towards our family members, but to our communities as well. So let us make other people seen in our communities, whether in our families, whether in our churches, whether in our schools. Let us make them loved, feel loved. And I want to tell you that you are all seen. You are known, and you're all finally home. Because God knows our known. Amen.